So good evening friends. Today is day 4 of Hun Challenge Concept Reward Series. So again time for yesterday's solution and the new question. So first of all let us discuss yesterday's problem. In fact in yesterday's problem again I have got many responses and many of them correct, but majority of them have got partially correct, one question correct and one question incorrect. In fact if I talk of the ray optics problem, most of the pupils have got it correct, and but for the rotation problem only one reply I have got correct, and the reward goes to Rishit Singla who has got both the answers correct, and he was also awardee of the first day and he is again the awardee of third day. And so today we are continuing with the solution of the last day's problem, and apart from that the new question of today will also be given to you. So let us first discuss the question of yesterday. The first question of yesterday was that of the ray optics again, that the face of a person has got width of 30 centimeter and the distance between his two pointed eyes, say E1 and E2, is 10 centimeter. So that is given to me, it's 10 centimeter. And correspondingly, and the height of the face of the person, that is given as 40 centimeter. I try to take the dimension of the face just as a normal human being. So I try to take this distance and this distance of 10 centimeter. So, okay, let us see. So anyway, what is the minimum height of the plane mirror required to see this full face? So if I take the corner, say A, B, C, D, corner of the face at A, B, C, D. Now we have to see A also, we have to see B also, we have to see C also, we have to see D also. So what I do here, I just take the height above the face to be say Y1 and from eye level, and below it to be Y2. Okay. So if I want to see the image of A, second, if I want to see the image of A, one thing is clear, if I want to see the image of A, the height of the mirror that will be required will be same if I see the image of either image of A is seen by E1 or E2, but width is going to be different. Why? Because when the ray will be reaching to from A to mirror and then again to E1, so vertically it has to lie at the midpoint of the height of Y1C. So and so on. If you want to see, the vertical height should be lying at the midpoint of Y2. So the vertical height is going to be same if image of A and D either E1 sees or E2 sees. But at the same time width will be different. In fact, if you take the width diagram for the A, so A from A, the ray will be coming from A and going to mirror and then E1, and A ray will be coming from A and then mirror and then getting reflected and get back to E2. So obviously if I take the diagram of X only, so this is the diagram, I am talking only X, not the ray diagram, only X component if I am considering. So this is the ray diagram. If I am considering only X component, so this is the ray diagram. So these are the two positions of the eye, and this is say B, and this is say A. Just to give the honor to the distance, I am slightly moving. Okay, and here is the mirror. So and this is the center of the face C. So if I want to see the image of B by E2, we require this diagram. And we want to see the image of B by E1, we require this diagram. And obviously, if I take these two distances as M1 and M2, M1, M1 dash. So obviously we require lesser width in case of E1. So if image of B is seen by E1, it requires a lesser width. How much lesser width? So this distance I can calculate. This is 0.6, this is C dash, so I can get this distance. If I take the distance between the eyes to be A, this is A by 2, and this is B by 2. If I take the width of the face to be B, it is B by 2. So this total is going to be A plus B by 2. So from here onward, it is going to be A plus B by 4. So when it is A plus B by 4 and minus A by 2, so this distance is going to be A plus B by 4 minus A by 2. So B minus A by 4. So on, I can see if the image of A is seen by E2, we will be requiring the lesser width. If the image of B is seen by E2, it will be requiring greater width. So the lesser width will become, where image of B will be seen by E1, and again the image of A will be seen by E2. So here again I will get this B minus A by 4. This total width come out to be B minus A by 2. So the vertical height required is same, midpoint of this one y1 and midpoint of y2. So the vertical height remains same. So the required dimension of the mirror is y1 plus y2 by 2 corresponding to the vertical height, and B minus A by 2 corresponding to the width of the required mirror. So this is the dimension of the mirror required. Here we know y1 plus y2 is 40 centimeters, so its half is going to be 20. So the height of the mirror required is 20 centimeters, and the width of the mirror required is B minus A by 2. Here I am given B is equal to 30 and A is given 10 centimeters. So this is A, 10 centimeter distance between the eyes. So 20 minus 10, 30 minus 10 by 2, so it comes out to be 10 centimeters. So this is the required dimension, and correspondingly if I am asking you the area, so this is the product of this. So the answer is 200 centimeter square is the dimension of the mirror required. So dimension of the mirror required is 200 centimeter square. However, there is one more catch here that can exist in this type of problem, and that catch is this distance has to be greater than half of the distance between the eyes, and here it is already there because half of the distance comes out to be 5 centimeters. So if distance has to be greater than 10 centimeters, this distance has to be greater than half of the distance between the eyes. For example, if I take another question in which width, the distance between eyes is 20 centimeters, then you are not going to see only this thing. Because in that case this comes out to be 5 centimeters. So my answer won't be 5 centimeters. My answer there will be half of the distance between your two. What I am saying you, if the distance between eyes are 20 centimeters, and then half of that distance comes out to be 10 centimeters, and then this quantity will going to be 5 centimeters. So 5 centimeters won't be answer, because we don't require only the extreme points to be seen. We also require center to be seen, and for center to be seen, we require this diagram, and this requires the minimum distance. If this distance is say A, so this is A by 4. So this is here A by 4. So minimum requirement is not only this, minimum requirement is also greater than A by 2. But here it is immaterial because A by 2 is only 5 centimeters. If I satisfy 10 centimeters, already it is greater than 5 centimeters. But the distance between eyes is more. Say, for example, if the distance between eyes is 20 centimeters, then again the width of the mirror required is not 5 centimeters, B minus A by 2, that is 10 centimeters, because there we won't have to see B minus A by 2, there we will have to see A by 2, because we also require center to be seen. So that is the catch here. In fact, I wish to play it sometimes else, but we are having lesser time, so I thought of discussing it right. Okay, so this was the first question that we have discussed, and then we are moving to the second question. But before moving to the second question, let me take a snap of this question. So we can take a snap of this question. So better than taking a snap of this question, I just get it here, a screenshot. This is done. Okay. Now I'm moving to the second question. The second question is, In fact, second question is a good question of concept of center mass and rotational motion. Here I am again presenting it. So we are having a hollow sphere that is actually composed of two hollow hemispheres of say masses m and 2m, and the radius is given r. Okay, so we know from the concept of center mass, the center mass of the hollow hemispheres are at distance r by 2 from the base plane, and it is given that base plane is vertical and it is placed in a liquid, uniform liquid. So this is the diagram. Okay. So now let me think the center mass of the system. So the for right side center mass is at distance r by 2 and left side again r by 2. So the overall system center mass is say C, that is going to be at 2m r by 2 minus m r by 2 by net mass, that is 3m. So the RC is coming out to be r by 6. Can you check it? Yes, it is r by 6. So the center mass is at distance r by 6 from the center of the sphere. So that is given to you. Okay. Another thing is there that the question tells you when you are releasing the system, center mass remains at rest. So mind it, I am not telling you O remains at rest. I am telling you center mass. So this point is going to be at rest. What does this mean? This means the net external force on the sphere is going to be 0. That means its weight, which is acting here, 3 mg, is same as the external force. So what is the external force here? Apart from weight, the external force here is the buoyant force. So effectively, you know the buoyant force in that the liquid that is surrounding this is a uniform liquid. So the center of buoyancy is going to be a center of the uniform sphere that is created by filling of this space by the surrounding liquid. So the center of buoyancy is O. So obviously, if the center of buoyancy is at O and the force of buoyancy is balancing, the net external force is 0 because it is given that just after releasing the center mass remains at rest. So I can conclude here the buoyant force is equal to the weight. So the buoyant force is going to be equal to 3 mg. So that is a catch here, and that is the main point that you can see here. Center mass remains at rest is the main point that is given in this question. So this is going to be at rest. And now the more interesting part comes out to be, so if the center mass is going to remain at rest, that's okay. Is there any torque about center mass? Yes, that is of buoyant force. So there is a torque about center mass of the buoyant force. What is that torque? So if I ask you now angular expression, my answer is torque about center mass at tau c upon IC. So this part is involving a little bit of calculation. So tau c I am knowing it, FB into this, and FB is 3 mg. So this part is coming out to be 3 mg r by 6. And now the second part is the moment of inertia calculation. That is also a tricky one. In fact, you know, if I am asking you the moment of inertia about O, that is going to be the sum of the moment of inertia of the two hemispherical parts. So I naught is going to be 2 by 3 of mr square plus 2 by 3 of 2 mr square. So overall it's going to be 2 by 3 of mr square plus 2 by 3 of 2 mr square. So ultimately I am getting as 2 mr square. But we don't require the moment of inertia about O. Actually we require moment of inertia about C. So I have to apply the parallel axis theorem. And parallel axis theorem, if I require the moment of inertia about any other axis and knowing moment of inertia about center mass, then we make the sum. But if we know the moment of inertia about other axis and we are requiring about center mass, then we will subtract. So I see we are getting I naught minus total mass into this distance ka square, r by 6 ka square. So solving it here, I am getting it. Solving it here, I am getting I naught minus 3m r by 6 square. So we are getting mr square 2 minus, this comes out to be 1 by 12, 1 by 36, 1 by 12. So it's going to be 23 by 12 mr square. And now I am going to place it here. So we are getting, so this IC I am going to place here. 23 by 12 mr square. I am getting it solved. I am getting this is 12 and 6, 36. 6 by 23 G by R is the answer. So only one correct answer I got, and that is from the Rishit Singla, just justifying his name and the other performance that he has already done in the past 2 years in Faridabad. And so this question is done by Rishit Singla. The reward goes to Rishit Singla for yesterday's problem. So I am moving to the problem of today, problem of day 4. So this was the discussion of the problem of day 3. So I am moving to now the problem of day 4. So I think you all are enjoying the problems, and these problems are very useful for applying for advanced, because they are not only involving concepts but continuation of concepts. So continuation of concept means if you know the concept, you have to apply it, and you have to keep your thinking in the critical situation. So I think it's going to be beneficial for you in advance. So the reward is not the purpose. In fact, the purpose is concept and clarity of concept and giving you a practice before the advance. So I hope you might be enjoying, and you may recommend other people also to see my channel and like and subscribe it. Okay. So I'm moving to the today's problem. Again, the challenge for you, and most importantly, I have use the word fun. So the fun is the most important part whenever we are enjoying the science. So let me continue now for the question of this thing. So this question 1. The first question is, we are having a large disk in XY plane. A large disk lies in XY plane. Large disk lies in XY plane, and the center of disk is origin, and this is say Z axis. Okay. And at the center of this disk, I am having a small sample of radioactive material. So a small sample of radioactive material I am having at the center, and this radioactive sample is beta active, with the initial number of this sample is initial number of nuclei and not, and initial number of nuclei in the sample, in this small sample at the center, is N naught, and activity constant is lambda, and it is showing beta decay. So you know what is beta decay. So this sample is showing beta decay, and this is placed at the center, and whatever the beta particles are formed, they are moving along the plane of the disk to create a radially symmetric current. So they are creating radially symmetric current at the center of beta active element is present with initial number and not decay constant lambda. So N naught is given, decay constant lambda is given, and this is beta active, and it is given that all the beta particles generated are moving away beta particles generated are moving away slightly. I may have to change the position of the camera to give a better view. Are moving away in form of radially symmetric current in disk, radially symmetric current in disk. So that's the given situation. And now I am just asking you, what is magnetic field B at the point A by root 2, comma A by root 2, comma A. So what is the magnetic field at the point A by root 2, comma A by root 2, comma A after time t? At time t. So that is the question. What is the magnetic field V at point A by root 2, comma A by root 2, comma A at time t? So that is the question. So whatever beta particles are created, they are moving a radially symmetric current and moving away along the radius of the disk. So symmetrically they are moving away from the radius of the disk. And we have to calculate the magnetic field at this point. So this is the question 1 for today. And the second question today I am taking up, as I already announced most of the time, I will be ensuring that the questions are always of 1 from 11 and 1 from 12. So this is the 12th question. Let me take a diagram. So, okay, I will take it. No, sir. Okay, so continuing now, okay, and for second question, question 2 of the day. Question 2 for the day is, we are having an adiabatic cylinder that is dividing symmetrically. There is an adiabatic cylinder that is dividing symmetrically. There is an adiabatic piston also, but the piston is, some say, method of moving it from outside. So some hook sort of thing is there. However, we are always ensuring that both the parts remain adiabatic. So that is given in the question. So there is no question about that. Both the parts are remaining adiabatic, and there is some way of ensuring the movement of this piston. How it is done, that we may have to consider, but anyway it will be done. So both the sides are containing the symmetric gas, say helium gas. Both the sides are containing helium gas, and the volume of the cylinder, total volume of the cylinder is given, and initial pressure of the gases on both the sides is P0, and initial pressure of both the sides of the gases are P0, and initial temperature is T0, and they are both adiabatic parts, so they cannot exchange the heat from each other part. And this is a movable piston. This is a adiabatic movable piston that can be moved. So what I am doing now, I am moving it, and I am moving it so that I am slowly moving it, so that the final volume, I am slowly moving this piston to this position, so that initial condition of pressure, volume, temperature is given, but I am slowly moving this piston to the final position, so that the volume here becomes, volume on the right side becomes half. Okay. Yani, final volume of this comes out to be V0/2, and this comes out to be V0/2. So what is the work required? So the question is, what is the work required to slowly move the piston so that the volume on the right side becomes half of the initial volume? I want to slowly move the piston so that the final volume in the right side becomes half of its initial volume. So that must be clear, because this initial volume is V0/2, so final volume on the right side will become V0/4. So what is the work required in this process? That is the question. And one more thing is important here, that the process is completely adiabatic. Meaning both the sides, the process of both the sides are adiabatic. This is the adiabatic piston, this is the adiabatic cylinder, everything is adiabatic. So keeping both the sides adiabatic, we have to move the piston. And piston is also adiabatic. Keeping the processes adiabatic, just a minute, the correction is there. The piston is not, piston is diathermic. Piston is diathermic, not adiabatic. Piston is diathermic. And then I am slowly moving the piston so that the volume to the right hand side becomes half. So keeping the process cylinder adiabatic, but piston diathermic. Piston is slowly moved to right. So the final volume in right side becomes half. Of initial. What is the work required? What is the work required? So this is the problem for the day. I hope you are enjoying the questions and will keep on enjoying today's question also. So thank you all. So we'll see you tomorrow.